Choosing the right makeup primer can truly level up your makeup game. So today I'm sharing some of the best primers that work well for mature skin of all types. I have silicone and water-based primer options for dry, oily, normal, and combination skin. And I've included drugstore and affordable primer options as well as high-end and luxury. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if this is your first time here. Maybe you've played around with primer in the past and didn't have that great of an experience, or you didn't see much of a difference at all, when in fact you just didn't find the right primer for you. The right primer can help smooth fine lines and wrinkles and help your pores look smaller, in addition to doing what a primer is supposed to do, which is extending the wear of your makeup and helping it look better throughout the day and creating a barrier between our skin and the makeup we're putting on top of it. So let's get into these primers that I think are fantastic for any skin type and are especially great for all types of mature skin, dry, oily, and everything in between. I've worn, tried, and tested more primers and primer foundation combinations than I can count throughout my years here on YouTube. If you're not seeing me mention a primer I've previously raved about and recommended, it doesn't mean I don't still love and recommend that primer. I just had to be extremely cutthroat for this top primers video since I'm recommending various types of primers, mattifying and moisturizing and other types for various skin types. It forced me to really narrow things down. It was actually pretty difficult, and I definitely like to hear your thoughts in the comments down below on the primers that I chose, if you've tried them or if you plan to. I'll point out whether each primer is silicone or water-based because you typically want to use the same type of foundation as your primer, but I encourage you to play around and see what works with your primer because there are always exceptions to the rule, and typically you only need a pea-size amount of each primer for your entire face. Less is more because if you have more products, thicker layers, the more likely your makeup is to slide around. So I'm going to start with Cali Ray So Blown Clean Blurring Primer. This is $36 for 1 ounce. There's also a mini that's $15 for 0.34 ounces. This is a silicone-based, cruelty-free vegan primer that I think is really great for all skin types. There are some really nice ingredients in here that help hydrate while controlling excess oil breakthrough, and it does a really nice job of blurring and smoothing fine lines and wrinkles, texture, and pores. And those ingredients also help reduce redness, fine lines, and wrinkles, and help with hyperpigmentation as well. It's got a nice, silky, smooth texture. And for me and my combination oily skin that's pretty normal around the perimeter, but can get some dryness, whereas the center of my face can get some shine and oil breakthrough, especially during these extremely hot, humid months where I live, this works really well on all areas of my face and has been very compatible with most foundations I have tried it with. These aren't in any kind of ranking order, they're just all here and I'm grabbing and sharing them how I reach for them. So next up we have Elizabeth Mott Thank Me Later Mattifying and Pore Minimizing Face Primer. There are other types of face primers from Elizabeth Mott for various skin types that are really good too, but this is the one that I think works best for normal to oily skin and works best for my skin type. It's $19 for 1 ounce and I was just blown away by how well this worked and shared it in one of my Amazon favorites and fails videos months and months ago. Elizabeth Mott is a Korean-based brand. This is a cruelty-free silicone-based primer, and it's one of the 2 primers, I believe, in this video that has sweat-proof, waterproof properties to it, which can be a huge deal, a huge benefit if you live in a hot, humid climate like I do, where you can break into a sweat simply walking from your car into a building or vice versa in the spring, summer, and sometimes fall. It's a huge reason why the other primer that I'm going to talk about later has been holy grail status for me for many years. I was really impressed with this from the jump. It's got a nice lotiony texture to it, and it does a great job of balancing my complexion and controlling oil, smoothing fine lines and pores while not making me feel dry or tight. And it leaves a nice soft matte finish and keeps me from getting excessively shiny during the day. It also, of course, helps my makeup last longer. That's what all these primers do. So if you have normal to oily skin, I think this is fantastic. And if you have a different skin type, her other primers are really nice too. I'll have all the primers I'm sharing and what I'm wearing linked down below in my description description box, and I'll have as many products as I can linked through the YouTube shopping icons, but they don't always have everything. They rarely have the Amazon items I share, and sometimes not the drugstore. So if you want to see everything I'm sharing listed and linked, check my description box. That's where everything will be. This is, in my opinion, one of the best moisturizing, hydrating, replenishing primers for combination to dry skin, especially mature skin. And I think it gets dismissed a lot by those with mature skin. I don't know if it's the packaging or the brand, but it is so good. I loved it for my combination oily skin from the first moment I tried it. This is Too Faced Hangover Replenishing Face Primer, and you get more in this packaging than what it looks like. You get 1.35 ounces. It's $42. There's also a mini for $18 that's 0.68 ounces. This is a water-based primer that's cruelty-free and vegan. It has kind of a watery, lotiony texture that sinks into your skin so nicely and feels almost cooling, and it's got a nice light coconut scent to it because it's infused with coconut water. There are also some other really nice skincare and probiotic ingredients in here that help replenish, hydrate, and promote visible elasticity while smoothing and brightening and giving a dewy but not greasy, healthy looking complexion. This is not a primer I initially thought would work well for my skin type, but it does. It's a beautiful primer that I reach for when I want my skin to feel replenished and hydrated and I want my makeup to last a long time. It helps my skin feel and look really good. Because there's so much overlap with these two Milk Makeup Pore Eclipse Mattifying and Blurring Primers, I'm going to share them together. I use and love both of them, but I do think there needs to be a little bit of clarification here. They're both cruelty-free and vegan and made for normal to oily skin. This liquid lotion primer was launched first, and this is another one where you get a lot for your money. This is 1.35 ounces and costs $38. There's also a travel mini size for $20 with a 0.68 ounces, and then the stick primer is $36 for 0.44 ounces. Keep in mind that stick and cream products, solid balm type products, are more condensed. You typically apply less and they last a long time. Both of these are silicone free and non-comedogenic, and they're designed to blur pores, smooth texture, and control shine without drying your skin. And they both give a natural soft matte finish and lock your makeup in for a long time. The stick claims 16 hours, whereas the lotion or liquid claims 12 hours. And there's quite a bit of ingredient overlap too. Now, this center core has charcoal in addition to the lentil extract that's also here to help absorb oil and control shine. And this also has tea tree oil to tone and soothe your skin. Now, they're both silicone free, but the liquid is water-based. So there are some foundations that I find that don't work that well with it, but I have found that there are some silicone-based foundations that work well with it as long as I let this sit for a little bit and kind of settle into my skin before I apply those foundations, which I always do anyway with my primers. So if you're not planning on wearing this with a water-based foundation, I would maybe play around, practice with your foundation before you wear it out for any type of longevity to make sure your foundation is compatible with this primer. I mean, you should do that anyway if your foundation and primers have different bases, and they both do work really well at doing what they're supposed to do. I just find that the stick is more compatible with different types of foundations. I'd love to know if you've tried both of these, if you agree with that. And you can also bring this for on-the-go touch-ups. They do recommend not to touch up with the stick directly to your face because you can mess up your makeup that way, to just rub your fingers in it and then tap them to your face. I don't find it to control shine for a long period of time when using it for touch-ups. Maybe if you live in a less humid climate than I do, it might work better for you for that. But those are the major differences. I do enjoy them both, so I just wanted to share them together. If you have normal to oily skin, depending on what you're looking for, you could like either one of these, but I have used both of these when I have needed bulletproof, long wear, shine-free makeup, and they've worked well. The first time I ever tried L'Oreal Age Perfect Blurring Face Primer, I thought it was going to have this kind of shiny, liquid, lotiony texture to it. Sort of a moisturizer texture, you know? But it has more of a soft, blurring texture. It almost seems like it's going to mattify. It kind of surprised me. So this is $11 for 1 ounce, and it's silicone based, and it has this rosy tone to it that's supposed to help boost healthy, more radiant looking skin. I don't find that rosy tone really does much to color correct my skin. Maybe I just have too much redness for it, but I find that this primer melds with my skin nicely, and that blurring finish smooths the look of my texture, pores, and fine lines, and it feels really comfortable and lightweight on my skin. It also has a nice light scent to it. This is another primer that is at a great price point that works really well, I think, across all skin types. Maybe if you have incredibly oily skin and you're on more of a budget, you may want to gravitate towards the Elizabeth Mott primer or another drugstore primer I'm going to talk about here in a minute. But I would say for sure, if you have combination to dry skin and you're looking for a nice primer at a nice price point, this is one to check out. I've searched high and low for my Bobbi Brown Vitamin Enriched Face Base. That's my next recommendation. It's in this house somewhere. I shared it recently in a video, but I'm in the middle of organizing a lot of products and have a lot of piles going on here in my office and downstairs in my closet vanity area where I get ready. So it is somewhere amongst all that chaos. If I find it, I'll insert a clip. If not, I'll have a picture here. This is an insanely popular, best-selling moisturizer primer combination product. It retails for $69 for 1.7 ounces, and there's also a jumbo size that's $110 for 3.38 ounces. Because it's so popular, they have that jumbo size, which does go down in cost, price per ounce, with that bigger size. And there's also a smaller travel size that's half an ounce for $25. So this is a silicone-based moisturizer primer combination product that can help you save a step in the morning, which is one of the reasons I think it's so insanely popular. That, combined with the fact that it is intensely hydrating and nourishing, yet fast absorbing and lightweight at the same time, and has some incredible ingredients: vitamins B, C, and E, hyaluronic acid, squalane, shea butter, to name a few. It works really great with your other skincare products and helps your makeup last longer, and is a fantastic primer for normal to dry skin. It does not help combat shine during the day if you have an oily T-zone or oily skin in general. But if you have dry skin, it has that nourishing, moisturizing texture, which keeps it a bestseller year after year. And it just does such a good job of combining moisturizing properties plus priming properties all in one, that it had to be in this video. It's not a primer I personally reach for on a regular basis because of my skin type, but in the winter, when my skin is very dehydrated, even I like to keep it on hand because it's that good. This has been a holy grail primer for me for years now. I have gone through numerous bottles and tubes, and it always ends up in my top primer recommendations videos. I can't tell you how many times I've mentioned this primer on my channel. And even though it works well on all areas of my face in all weather conditions, my oily, shine-prone areas, as well as any dry, dehydrated areas I happen to have, I always get nervous recommending it for those with dry skin. I don't know why, but I've had so many comments here on YouTube and on other platforms saying how much you love it for your dry skin, that I am saying I think this is a fantastic primer for all skin types. This is Hourglass Veil Mineral Primer. There are 3 sizes to choose from of this primer too. You have a 1 ounce size for $58. This is not the cheapest primer, but a little goes a long way, and it's worth it if you use it, right? I have also bought the 2 ounce jumbo tube that retails for $75, but that breaks down to $37.50 per ounce, making it about the same cost per ounce as a 1 ounce bottle of primer. And there's a travel size, a 0.31 ounce size for $24. This is a silicone water-based, oil-free, cruelty-free vegan primer that has a really unique, airy, silky, cloud-like texture that I've never experienced with another primer before. Sometimes it can get a little liquidy. The texture can be kind of uneven, but I don't find that affects the performance of the primer at all. It smooths my skin beautifully, my texture, fine lines, and pores. And there's something about this tone that helps even your skin tone and minimize redness too. And this is that second primer that I was referring to earlier that has those waterproof, sweat-proof properties. This primer repels water. So if you're going to be sweating or if you live in a humid climate like I do, this is a fantastic primer. I can't tell you how many times this has kept my makeup intact and fresh when it otherwise would have completely broken down. This is the primer I reach for if I know I might be sweating, if there might be dancing at a wedding or there's a Mardi Gras ball, which is a very unique situation based on my location. I do realize that. Or if it's just hot outside and I need to look presentable. And I swear there's something about this primer that keeps my skin clearer when I wear it. I don't know what it is, if it's something about the mineral base. Now they also claim this has SPF 15 because of the titanium dioxide and zinc in here, but you would have to gob this on to get that sunscreen protection. So please don't use this as your sunscreen protection. You only need a pea-size amount. A little goes a long way. I love this. It's one of my favorites. It has been for years and it continues to be. Now, if you're looking for an affordable drugstore primer and you have normal to oily skin, I think e.l.f. Liquid Poreless Putty Primer is a great option. It's $10 for just under an ounce for 0.94 ounces. The balm formula, the original formula of this, didn't work well for my shine-prone areas. I think it's better for normal to dry skin, but this I think is really great. It's cruelty-free and vegan. It's silicone-based. It has a silky, lightweight, lotion texture that smooths and blurs and minimizes pores and helps control shine and helps makeup wear longer as a primer should, but it doesn't dry my skin out at the same time. This would probably work well for all skin types. I just find that this works so much better than the original formula for my skin type, combination oily, that I definitely wanted to put it in this video. Now, if you have dry skin and you're on a budget, the L'Oreal primer might be one you want to look at, or maybe one of the e.l.f. gripping primers. I personally find gripping primers in general don't do much for my shine prone areas. I just get a little shiny with them, but they do work phenomenally well to keep your makeup in place all day. And I think they're fantastic for normal to dry skin, maybe even combination skin if you live in a less humid environment than I do. And I know Milk Makeup was the original, but I think these e.l.f. primers are so good and they cost less. They're $10 for 0.81 ounce and they're water gel-based formulas that are cruelty-free and vegan and hydrating. The gel formula really grips onto your makeup for all day wear and they moisturize at the same time and feel really nice and hydrating. Now there are two options here. You have the original and then this one has 4% niacinamide, but this one still has niacinamide. So if you have this one, I don't think you need to go out and get this one. But if you're wanting extra pore smoothing, this one with the extra percentage of niacinamide might be the one to grab. This isn't technically a primer. That's not its primary purpose anyway, but I'm including it in this video because it works phenomenally well at controlling shine and oil breakthrough without drying my skin out or making it feel tight. It hydrates at the same time, and I've been reaching for it a lot during these hot, humid months under various foundations. So this is Danessa Myricks Yummy Skin Blurring Balm Powder in the Universal Translucent shade. It's $36 for 0.63 ounces. Remember, it's a balm cream formula, so it's very condensed. A little bit goes a long way. It's silicone-based, cruelty-free, and vegan. And even though they say it's a balm to powder formula, I find that I scoop a little out with the enclosed spatula and apply it to my face, and it transforms into a liquid first that spreads easily and sinks into my skin. I let it sit for a little bit because at that point, it's not matte. It looks a little bit dewy, actually. But after it sits, I then pat it into my skin, and that's when I notice it looks a little bit more matte, but it doesn't have that matte feel. My skin just feels like my skin. They're a really nice nice ingredients in here that absorb sebum and sweat and balance oil production while maintaining and promoting hydration and diminishing signs of aging. As I said earlier, a little goes a long way. I don't feel it on my skin. If you have combination to oily skin and you're battling shine during the day, no matter what time of year it is, and no matter how old you are, and you haven't considered this, you may want to pick it up and try it. It's a product I never really thought about using for this purpose. I just thought it was a foundation, but I'm so glad I started using it this way because it works really, really well. I didn't really say there was a runner-up at the beginning of this video, but that's what I'm calling this because this is a somewhat new primer release that I've been testing out extensively and playing around with and really enjoying for very specific reasons, and it is for a very niche skin type and it needs to be applied a certain way. So this is the One Size Oil Sucker Extreme Mattifying Alkaline Primer. It's $34 for 1.01 ounce. It's water-based, cruelty-free, and vegan, and is great if you have oily or combination oily skin and you have specific oily areas that you really want mattified. This is not a primer to be used all over your face. It's specifically designed for oily areas. It's non-comedogenic and absorbs oil and instantly mattifies and tightens the look of your pores and extends your makeup's wear for up to 12 hours and helps control shine all day. There are some really interesting ingredients in here that help it work the way it does. It has a very liquidy, runny texture and has to be applied a very specific way or it will not work properly. Your foundation won't apply well over it and it won't work the way it's supposed to. It's not difficult to apply, but you do need to apply it per the instructions. So you want to shake it up thoroughly, which you should do to any primer or any foundation for that matter, and apply a thin layer only to your oily areas where you want shine to be minimized. Sort of smooth it over those areas and let it sit for 3 minutes while you don't make expressions. It's not forming a tight film over those areas or anything. It's just sort of fusing and settling into your skin during that time. And then after it's dry, if you find that there are any white areas, you want to wipe those away with a damp finger. I found this works exceptionally well at combating shine and oil breakthrough in my oil-prone areas during the day, but I can get sort of a tight feeling in those areas as the day goes on, even though it says that's not supposed to happen. So I reserve this for when I really need it. And I think for that reason, it would be great if you have really oily skin or you know you're just going to be out in it for the day. I also would encourage you to maybe play with it a little bit. Make sure the moisturizer you're using under it is compatible. There are a couple of moisturizers I tried with it that sort of pilled, but once I knew what worked with it, it worked beautifully, and all the foundations I've tried with it have applied beautifully and worn really well. You may want to practice with it to see what works for you, and although there are some pluses and minuses to it, it's definitely the most mattifying primer I have in this video. And as we've discussed several times on my channel, mature skin can be oily just as much as it can be dry or anything in between. Do you own any of these primers? What do you think about my picks? Did you think a primer was going to be included in here that wasn't? Let me know in the comments down below. I've also started updating my top foundations lists. You can check out those videos here, and I'll be adding another video to that soon. I hope you enjoyed this and found it helpful and enjoyable. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're not already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.